20-year-old Tyler Gray is suing his ex-girlfriend, 18-year-old Shalia Slayton, and her mother, Tram, for a loan to buy a car and a loan to take a vacation.
Mr. Gray, Miss Slayton is your former girlfriend.
Right.
And this is what your complaint alleges. It alleges that several months ago, you loaned her $1,000 to put as a down payment on a car. She was supposed to make the payments on the car. You were the co-signer on the car loan. She didn't make the payments, and you repossessed the car. According to what I read, you said you sold the car. Did you sell the car, or did you give the car to your mother?
My mother took over the car payments.
And how much after the car was purchased did your mother take over the car payments? How many months?
About 2.
Okay. And then you allege that the defendant went on a vacation. Mm-hmm. She was your girlfriend. She notified you on the vacation that she was short of some money and asked you if you could put some cash in a joint checking account that you had.
Right.
And you put $300 in the joint checking account because that's what you do.
Right.
And when she came back from vacation, she broke up with you. That's what you say, right?
Yes, we broke up after I got back.
No, your answer says that after you came back from vacation, you broke up with him, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So let's take care of the car first. Forget about the car. You gave the car to your mother. She used the car maybe 2 months. Car's your problem. Got it?
No, actually, she...
No, now you believe, trust me. I want you to trust me. I want you to trust me. That's it. Because if you had sold the car to a stranger at an arm's length transaction, and if there was a shortfall on what you were owed, I might listen to you. The fact that your mother took over the payments, that's not what we call an arm's length transaction. Say nothing. You're driving the car?
Yes.
That's it. The car is yours. You just bought a car for your mother. And if she's going to make the payments, that's $300. Now, when did you go on this vacation?
I went July 15th through the 18th, I believe.
And where did you go?
I went to Newport Beach to visit my sister as a graduation present.
And when did you call him for the $300?
Probably that Saturday I was there.
Well, you went there on the 15th, 15th, 16th, 17th, and you came back on the 18th.
Yeah, the second day I was there, I called him.
And when did you break up with him?
The night I came back, we actually ended up breaking up.
You broke up with him?
Yeah.
Tell me why.
We broke up because this was now a new chapter in my life. I just graduated from high school. I was starting college soon, and I wanted to focus on what I needed to do.
When did you come to this revelation? On the 15th, 16th, 17th, or 18th? Don't speak to her. When did you come to this revelation?
I had been thinking about it prior to leaving, and when
And why did you call him and ask him for money?
Well, because we had a joint account, and whenever he needed money, I would give him the money.
Well, that's because there was goodwill between you. You think that if you had called him up on the 16th and said to him, what's your first name?
Tyler.
Tyler. Tyler, when I get back, I'm going to break up with you, but right now I'm visiting with my sister, and I need $300. You think he would have put $300? Listen to me. You see how you just laughed? You see you just laughed? I just want you to think about that. If you had called him up on the 16th and said, Tyler, I've been thinking about our relationship. I want to move on. I need a new chapter in my life, but I'm down here with my sister. We're having a good time. I need $300. I'm short. Could you put $300 in our account? You think he would have done it?
Probably not.
Right. So you owe $300 because you weren't being honest with him. And the fact that you had a joint account where you each put money during the course of your relationship when you had a trusting, mutual relationship with him, that's one thing. But that was pretty sneaky. To break up with him the day you... Don't poke her! It was pretty sneaky calling him and breaking up with him 2 days later. How do you think he felt? He felt like an idiot. Felt like an idiot. This wasn't some revelation. Been thinking about it for a while.
Well, this account was actually my account, and he couldn't get an account of his own, so I put him on as my account so that he could deposit his paychecks into there.
Yeah.
But towards the end of our relationship, he didn't have a job, and he was spending my money.
So this was a way of getting money back?
It wasn't getting back at him or anything like that.
Sure it was. Sure it was. You figure you would cut your losses. What you did was not right. So far on his claim, he gets Zippo for the car, $300 that you had him put in while you were on vacation getting ready to dump him. Now, getting back to your counterclaim. Say nothing. I'm not interested. Do you understand? Let's get to your counterclaim. You say he overdrew your checking account by $700.
Yeah.
When did he do that?
While I was in Newport.
Show me. Did you overdraw her checking account, sir?
No.
All of the ones highlighted are the transaction his card made.
I don't even think we had 700.
Shh. No, highlighted. You have something here on 7/20 and 7/21. That's not when you were in Newport. Did you take money out of this account, sir?
I didn't take $700 out of the account.
No,
we didn't
100
have $700 in our account.
No. There was 100 taken out on 7/19 and again on 7/19. You took out $300. So right after she broke up with you, you withdrew $300 from the account. Is that right?
No.
Take a look at 7/19. 7/19, your account.
719, withdraw $100. Okay?
And then there's another 7/19.
200. You're correct.
I'm always correct.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen to me. This was your joint money. Up until the point when you're no longer a couple. And I can understand you going in and saying, I'm not going to let her make a fool out of me and take my $300 when she knew she was going to break $300. No. Your mother's driving around in the other $1,000.
She purchased the car with the full amount that we bought it. She never made a car payment on the car.
Listen to me. Arm's length transaction. I tried to explain that to you. If you don't understand it, go to a lawyer. They'll explain it to you better. I don't have the time to educate you. If you sold the car to a stranger, I would hear you. You gave the car to your mother. I don't want to hear it. You took your $300 back after she broke up with you, so you get no $300. Don't put anybody else on your checking account, madam. He put in $300. He took out his $300. So you don't owe him any money, and he doesn't owe you any money. Go, have a happy life. Goodbye, good luck. Have a nice day.
Parties are excused when they step out.
24-year-old Angelica Ruiz is suing her ex-boyfriend, Brett Peterson, for a propane bill, unpaid credit card charges, and for the cost of a gun.
Miss Ruiz, you and Mr. Peterson lived together for how long?
4 years.
And you lived together in a home that you purchased.
Yep.
In your name.
Yes.
Mortgage was in your name.
Yes.
I gather from reading the complaint and the answer that Mr. Peterson and you had an arrangement whereby you shared expenses on the house.
Mm-hmm.
Those shared expenses include the mortgage payment.
Mm-hmm.
And how much was the mortgage payment?
A little over $700 a month.
So while Mr. Peterson was there, he was helping you pay down the mortgage?
Yeah.
Okay, and he has no equity in the house?
No.
It is your claim that you separated,
Mm-hmm.
and he owes you for two things. He owes you for a gun that you purchased for him, that he said he would pay for, and that he owes for some expenses on the house, some propane or something.
The propane credit cards.
And Mr. Peterson said the gun was a gift from you to him, and the expenses on the house he paid for up until the time he left. He owes you nothing.
Okay.
When did you move out of the house, Mr. Peterson?
December 30th, 2007.
When was the gun purchased?
September 31st, 2007.
Were you working at the time?
Yes, ma'am.
You were putting money into a joint account to pay expenses?
Yes, ma'am.
Was this gun purchased on a credit card?
Yes, it was.
And were your credit cards paid for out of a joint account?
Yes.
How much was the gun?
It was $1,711, I believe.
Now, let me understand this. You purchased a gun, and it was placed on a credit card that was in your name.
In my name, yep.
Did you have any responsibility on that card at all?
Oh, ma'am.
Were all of the purchases for the household made on that credit card?
The purchase of the house?
Yes. When you went out for dinner?
Oh, yeah, when we went out for dinner. Stuff like that, yeah.
Was used on that credit card?
Yep.
And each of you put in money each month into a joint account. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
How much did you put in, Mr. Peterson?
Whatever my check was, it went directly into the account.
Well, give me some idea.
About $300 a week. I have my check statements right here.
Can I see it, please? So it is correct that his checks went directly into the joint account?
That's right.
To pay all the bills?
To help pay, yeah.
And how did you get cash to live on, sir?
I have an ATM card.
So you would draw out money for your personal cash, just
Yes.
walking around money. And how much were you putting in the bank?
It was between $400 to $500 a week, plus I got child support, which was about $200 a month.
How many children do you have?
I have one child.
And that child was living with you?
Yes.
Okay. You moved out on December the 30th.
Yes, ma'am.
When was the last time you put a check into the account?
Whenever I got paid the week before.
Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Fine. Then why do you think he owes you any money?
Because credit cards. And it's all from when we were together. And so I expect him to pay half of it. I will pay my share as long as he pays half of his. I mean, we both used the credit cards. We both ate the dinners. We both lived in the house. I don't see why he shouldn't have to pay for it.
Depends upon what the expenses were for.
For us, going out to eat, his Christmas with his family, presents for my family, anything that we needed.
Let's talk about the credit card, Mr. Peterson. Would it be a fair statement that it was your intention when this money was charged on the credit card that this was to be paid out of joint funds?
All of our bills were paid out of joint funds.
Was that your intention?
Yes.
So it would be a fair statement, sir, that Ms. Ruiz would be right in saying that any charges that were made prior to December 30th when you left should be shared between the two of you equally.
It depends on what the bills were for.
Well, you didn't
I have
go
no
through,
proof of what
just a
the
second.
amount.
You didn't go through the bills when you were living together, did you? And say this was yours and this was mine? You just paid the bills together jointly.
Yes.
Then it would be a fair statement that had you not left on December 30th, you would have continued to contribute your check and pay down the bills.
Yes.
Perfect. What was the balance as of December the 30th?
On just the credit cards are we going through?
Just the credit card.
Because I got 3 of them. I got 2 U.S. bank cards and 1 Home Depot card.
Forget Home Depot. That's your house.
He bought it.
Forget Home Depot. You think you bought a Home Depot, went into your home?
I can't even stay there now.
Well, I don't care whether you can stay there or not. That's what it was purchased for your house. I assume that you're going to sell it. I don't know whether you're going to make a profit or
I
not.
can't even sell it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Angelica Ruiz says former live-in boyfriend, Brett Peterson, owes for a propane bill, unpaid credit card charges, and the cost of a gun.
Now, other than the Home Depot card, let me have the balances on the other 2 credit cards.
The one is $7,898.94.
Let me see it, please.
I'll just give them both to you. And they're down at the bottom.
The other one is $1,500. It's $9,300. His half of those credit cards is $4,650.
Okay.
What else?
His gun.
He's not paying you for his gun, madam.
Why?
I would assume that one of these credit cards is also for the gun. Is that right?
No. Oh, yeah, you're right.
Right.
I added up without the gun.
I added up with the gun. The 2 credit
Okay.
cards. Half.
Okay.
Because you put it on a credit card where joint monies were used.
But he worked an extra job just to pay off that gun. He needed it for his hunting season, which was before he got the money.
Miss Ruiz, I'm
I
sympathetic
get it.
with you, madam. You don't have what all these expenses were for. You don't have whether these were expenses for your child, for whom you get child support, who's not his responsibility. You have none of that.
Okay.
Do you understand?
I understand.
It's always messy when there's a separation.
Yep.
It's much more cumbersome when there is no marriage, because when there's a marriage, the law usually provides this is your property, this is your property. But I am less sympathetic, Ms. Ruiz, because at least for part of the time that he lived there, for 4 years, he was paying down a mortgage for a house for which he has no equity. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,650. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Cynthia Aseltine and her daughter, 19-year-old Danielle Ireland, are suing Cynthia's former landlord, Sidney Neese, for the return of a security deposit, moving expenses, and damages from an assault.
All rise. Now, this is case number 40 on the calendar in the matter of Aseltine Ireland versus Nice. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Who is Miss Ireland?
I'm Miss Ireland.
Hazelton?
Azeltine is my mother.
Miss Hazeltine, according to your complaint, you, not your daughter, but you, rented a room from the defendant.
Yes, ma'am.
And you found that room on something on the internet called Craigslist
Yes, ma'am.
and signed a month-to-month lease.
I did.
When did you sign that?
March 1st, 2007.
Where had you been living before that?
I was residing in an apartment which I shared with my daughter, and she decided to move out on her own and get her own apartment. So I thought it would be good for me to move into a place where I could save a little money, maybe meet some new people, until I was able to purchase my own home.
How long had you been renting rooms?
I've been renting rooms for about 4 years.
What kind of property do you have?
I have a home in Elk Grove, California.
How many bedrooms?
5 bedrooms.
How many tenants do you have?
Currently one.
How many tenants did you have when you had Miss Hazeltine?
Just myself and Cindy.
And it was a month-to-month tenancy?
It was.
It is your claim that Miss Neese terminated your tenancy without proper notice, and you want moving expenses, your security deposit back, and you want damages because she, you claim, assaulted both you and your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Neese says that you are not entitled to your security deposit back because you promised that you were going to stay through April, and you didn't. It is her claim that you actually assaulted her. So let's find out when the trouble began. You moved in March 1st.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
About approximately a week after I moved in, I noticed some strange behavior from Miss Neese. When I was in the home alone, and especially when I had company over, I would notice some outbursts. It seems she was talking to herself, kind of laughing out loud. She'd walk through the home when I'd have company over and bang anything that would make noise, opening and closing compulsively the garage door. The washer was close to my room, so she'd slam the washer door up and down.
Got it. Let's move on.
Okay. And I became just really uncomfortable in the home. I'd find myself, I'd sign up for overtime, I'd go to the gym, anything to avoid coming home because her behavior was really disturbing and uncomfortable. And so I noticed that it became more obvious when I had company over, so I decided to talk to her about it. So maybe I was doing something wrong. And so I came home, and so I knocked on her door. She didn't answer, so that's when I called her cell phone, and I found that she was actually at home in her room. And she came out, and I had a conversation with her, and I said, is there something bothering you, lately? Because I've noticed that you've been slamming things around, banging things. And her response was, bang? I don't bang. Bang? I don't bang anything. I said, oh, okay. Well, apparently, when my boyfriend's over, does he make you uncomfortable? No, I don't have a problem with your boyfriend. And I said, well, one night he spent the night here, and it seemed that you were really uncomfortable with that, and that's when I noticed the most noise. She goes, well, I didn't even know he spent the night. And she goes, well, it's in your lease agreement that you can't have any overnight guests. I said, well, I didn't notice that in my lease agreement. I apologize.
Was it in your lease agreement?
It was, ma'am, in my lease agreement.
Okay.
And I said, I respect that. And I said, well, that's something that I'm not sure if I can live with. I apologize. I overlooked that. And I said, if you feel real strong about that, then I think I might have to make a decision to move out. And I would go ahead and give you a proper 30-day notice. And she goes, okay, well, that's fine.
Fine. What day was that? That was in March?
Okay, that was of March. I sent her a copy, certified mail, which she...
May I see it, please?
Absolutely. That was sent regular mail as well as certified mail, which I have a receipt there. Ms. Neese never picked up the certified copy.
Okay, and you received this letter terminating
Yes.
her tenancy?
Yes, I have
Fine.
it right here.
Good. So what happened?
Okay,
What was
so
next?
things were a little still uncomfortable in the house, so I decided to avoid her as much as possible. About a week after giving that notice to her, I came home and found that she was interviewing another tenant, which I gave her the privacy. I had went and cleaned up and got ready to go back out again.
I haven't
She
even
then,
met you.
she then,
You have a turn.
Okay.
Right now, plaintiff is talking.
Okay.
Go ahead.
after I had finished and cleaned up and the person had left, she had come and spoke with me and said, okay, well, when are you going to be moving your furniture out? I understand, I received your 30-day notice. And I go, well, I can start putting it in storage soon if you really need the space, because she was saying that she wanted to offer that space to the tenant. She goes, well, that's your right to keep it there for the remainder of the month. And, things seemed to be okay then, but she was still exhibiting some behaviors that I just didn't feel that.
I understand. You were moving out for a reason. Keep going.
Absolutely. And so I had received a phone call on March 31st. I was at the gym, and I received a message from Miss Neese. And on the message, she says that she's demanding that she have a face-to-face meeting with me and discuss the 30-day notice agreement and finalize me moving out. And so I was kind of, I didn't understand.
Just tell me what happened.
Okay, so I called her up, and I said, I got your message. What's the deal with me having to come over? And she goes, well, I want you to speak to me face-to-face. I gave you the same respect when you gave me your 30-day notice. And I said, well, I really don't want to have any confrontation with you. You're making me feel really uncomfortable and threatened. She goes, well, if you do not come home right now, I'm going to lock you out. And I said, you can't lock me out. And she goes, I'm telling you, if you don't come home right now, I'm going to lock you out. At that point, she disconnected the phone call. Me and my boyfriend were at the gym. I said, come on with me. She's threatening to lock me out. I need to go home. When we got there, me and my boyfriend entered the home, and Miss Neese was in the kitchen. She had already taken all my groceries out of the fridge and out of the cupboard and had set them up on the counter as if she was moving me out. I said, what are you doing? Please put my things back. You can't move me out. What's the problem? And at that point, she came around the counter of the kitchen with her finger in my face, and she goes, girl, you better shut your mouth, because in the name of Jesus, I'm going to smack the devil out of you. At that point, My boyfriend placed his body in between us because she was this close in my face, and he's that face to me, and he's like trying to block her. And she turned around and she swung about backside of him and hit me upside the head. At that point, I grabbed my cell phone. She grabbed her cell phone. I called the police. She called 911. The police arrived, a female police officer. Police officer went and spoke to Miss Neese. Miss Neese had stated that she was going to be locking me out of the house, and the officer had stated, legally, ma'am, you cannot lock her out of the house. And she goes, don't you tell me how to run my household.
Can I see the police report, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when did the incident happen with your daughter?
Same day.
Same day?
It was a little bit later on that day when I had came. The police officers had actually left at a certain point, and my mother had called my boyfriend and get a U-Haul to get all of her things, and we both ended up showing up at the exact same time as my mom with the U-Haul, and that's when I arrived.
And what happened with Miss Neese?
Well, we came into the house, and she was in her bedroom, had shut the door, and was in her bedroom, like the police officer told her to stay in the room. I went into this little front area that was right next to her bedroom door and started to grab furniture. And I grabbed this big glass top that was to one of my mom's coffee tables, and I started going out. And then Miss Neese came out of her room and was really mad and angry, and was directing a lot of anger at myself and at Ryan, saying that he didn't have any right to be in the house, and that was saying something about how we couldn't go through the garage door. She was telling us we had to go through the front door for some reason, and I was standing on my way to the garage door. She was really like livid and saying that we couldn't be in our house, that we had no right to be in there, and then she comes up behind me and grabs me by the back of my neck and like kind of pushes me and then kind of hits me. And then Miss Neese turned around to my mom and starts getting in her face, and she's throwing her hands wildly and stuff, and then she goes to make a fist like she was going to strike my mom, and I grabbed her arm and I put it down and I said, don't touch my mom. And then it just turned into a scuffle where she was just being really wild.
Okay, Miss Neese, I would like you first to tell me your version of the events of the 31st of March.
Okay, Saturday, March 31st, I initiated a call to Cindy to finalize things in the matter. She had sent me a letter March 20th indicating that she was going to move out at the end of April. And so I wanted to finalize things as far as obtaining the rent for April.
She already told you that she was going to give you the rent April 3rd in the letter.
Right. In my lease, it indicates, in the initial agreement that we signed, it indicates that if any rent is not paid time or in full, that they will forfeit the security. That's in item number 2 in our lease.
What difference does that make? She already said, I'll pay you your rent on April 3rd. It's in her letter that she sent to you.
Because I just like to do things decently and in order, so...
This is decently and in order. You called her on her cell phone.
Yeah, I called her on Saturday and I asked, because she had initiated an appointment in mid-March. She wanted to see if her boyfriend could stay overnight, and she knocked on my door. Actually, I was napping, and she knocked on my door until...
Shh, don't interrupt her. I'm just asking you what you told her on March 31st. You called her, she's at the gym.
On March 31st, I asked her if she had any time in the afternoon. I said I'd appreciate if we could finalize things and, you know, get the rent. So then she started cursing at me, and she started getting really violent on the phone and calling me up.
Did you tell her she had to come home or else you were going to change the locks?
No, absolutely not.
Did you take her food out of the refrigerator? I'm speaking.
No, I didn't actually.
Did you take her food out of the refrigerator and place it on the counter?
No, not...
Did you tell the police when they arrived that you were planning on changing the locks and locking her out?
When she started cursing at me on the phone, because she, by the way, she's been pretty violent before, so when she came home from the gym, she came home and she kicked me, which I have a photo of the bruise on my leg from when she kicked me then. At that point, I had called the police, and because I had wanted to have her arrested. So when they came over, they kind of separated us, got both versions of what had happened, and so I didn't have her arrested at that point.
The police found you very agitated, Ms. Neese. According to all 3 police officers who arrived at the scene...
Well, she assaulted me. I have pictures. She admitted biting me on the arm.
There was an altercation. There's no question there was an altercation.
Well, I actually didn't touch her or her daughter. Both of them came home. She called her daughter, and they both came in, and then they assaulted me in my room. And that's why I had called the police a second time. When I was on the phone with the police, I was terrified. They said, "Where are you?" I said, "I locked myself in my room," because I was afraid they were going to come in again. I have pictures of the door and from when they tried to barge in my door. All the bruises, they hit me.
What do you do for a living, Ms. Neese?
I'm an insurance broker.
For a company?
For myself. I have my own agency, and I'm going to school for court reporting.
So you operate out of your home or out of an office?
I'm usually on the road, but my office is out of my home, yes.
So you don't have an office other than at your home?
Correct.
And how long have you been doing that?
5 years.
You make a living at that?
Yes.
The last time you had a tenant prior to the plaintiff, what was that tenant's name?
Prior to Cynthia, she was the first tenant in that home.
So you'd never had a tenant?
Not in this home. When I was in the Bay Area, I've had tenants. She was the first tenant in this home.
Judge, I have some information regarding the tenants in the Bay Area.
Cynthia Aseltine and daughter Danielle Ireland are accusing Cynthia's former landlord, Sidney Neese, of 2 assaults.
Now, you wanted to say something?
Yes, San Mateo County Courts, there's 3 claims regarding Ms. Neese in regards to tenant-landlord. 2 times she was a defendant, and 1 she was a plaintiff regarding the same situation, withholding deposits
Can I see
and so
that?
forth. Actually, I didn't print it out, but if you go to San Mateo County Courts, it is public record.
You had 3 landlord and tenant actions while you were there, 1 as a plaintiff and 1 as a defendant?
I'm not sure what she's referring to, but it was just probably a lack of, my income. But with regard to
No,
this...
I'm not talking about, I'm asking you whether you had 3 previous landlord and tenant actions.
I think there was 1, and it was just because I was having problems, with cash flow, but they have since been paid back.
1 was that she put a stop pay on a deposit as a tenant herself.
That sound familiar?
I'm not sure what she's referring to, but I would appreciate if we could talk about this case today and why, I don't believe that I owe her this security deposit.
You absolutely owe her the security deposit. There's no question that you owe her the security deposit.
Okay.
You told her to leave. I've read the police report. You said you wanted her out that day. She left. She did not stay the month of April, despite the fact that she said she was planning on paying April's rent. You absolutely owe her the security deposit. There's no question about that.
Well, because she assaulted me, and I had to put out expense. She didn't return the key when she moved out.
I believe that this was an unfortunate circumstance, that everybody's tempers got very flared up.
Actually,
on that.
mine did not.
Well, not according
And
to
I was
Miss Neese. According to the police, the only
person assaulted by her and her
Miss
daughter,
Neese,
and her boyfriend had to pull them off of me.
And the police department.
when
I'm
she moved
speaking. When I'm
out-
speaking, don't speak.
Okay.
Clearly, not only did you claim that they were assaultive, you
I have
also. I'm
photographs of all
speaking.
the
I'm
assaults.
speaking. Do you hear me speaking? You also claim conspiratorial behavior on the part of the police. You weren't satisfied with the police officer who came. You demanded their supervisor. 2 supervisors arrived. They couldn't calm you down. You demanded their supervisor. So everybody is in a conspiracy against you. There's something not right, Miss Neese. All of that is clearly contained in the police report. I assume you have a copy of it.
The copy that I obtained from them does not contain that information. That's not what they had given me. They
May
gave
not
me
be what
one
they
line.
gave you, but that's what I have.
Okay, can I show you the pictures of my bruise?
Absolutely.
And actually, I still have them on my body.
Absolutely. Show me.
This is a picture of when she bit me in the arm.
She absolutely acknowledges that
And
she bit you in
then,
the arm, and she
a
says she bit
bruise
you.
on my
I'm
breast.
speaking. Don't you want to hear me speaking? She absolutely acknowledges that she bit you in the arm so that you would let her go.
Absolutely, ma'am.
Okay, can I tell my version of the story, ma'am?
When I
Yes,
contact
do.
the police
Up,
department.
up, don't.
What had transpired, basically, the whole issue, when she first, in the initial ad, I indicated no alcohol, no overnight guests, and she breached both of those. She was drinking a lot while she was there, and she was having overnight guests, her boyfriend. And I never even said anything because I didn't want to get into it. But then she mentioned, she talked to me that one day, and I said, no overnight guests. Are you okay with that?
So she gave you
said,
notice.
yes.
Listen, I got it. I have other things to do today. She said, I'm moving. She sent you an appropriate notice that she's moving. Move on with it. Get to the 31st.
Right, but then she didn't pay the rent, and so I wanted
No. She has no obligation to pay the rent on March 31st. None. And if you demanded that she come home from the gym...
I didn't demand that she came home. I called her on the cell phone, and I said, do you have any time this afternoon? What's your availability?
I don't think you should have roommates. I don't think you should rent rooms to anybody. I don't. I think that you are a very, very nice lady who clearly should live alone, not with anybody else, because you can't make rules for adults. I mean, she's an adult lady. She's not a teenager. You didn't rent to a teenager. And if you don't like other people living in your house because other people aren't going to do things the way you do,
Well, it's not that I want to do things the way I want to do. But when I rented
a room,
they said no overnight guests. When
absolutely
I rented, they
right.
set their
And she said I didn't.
and I honored them. So if she didn't want to.
Do you take medication? Do you take medication?
No, ma'am.
You should. Because I've already told you 4 times, this is the 4th time, that when I start to speak, you have to stop.
Okay.
You can't. That's something that's not working right. You owe her security deposit, which was how much?
It was $500.
Did either of you seek any medical treatment for your injuries?
No.
Yes, I did.
I'm not talking about you. Now, where did you move when you moved?
I was actually homeless for 8 days. I was allowed to stay at my boyfriend as roommate with another roommate, and he was out of town.
That's fine. Don't make up things as we go along. You weren't homeless because you were able to sleep someplace.
Well, yes. I mean, I was without a permanent...
Fine, and then you found someplace.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Whole thing is very, very unfortunate. Really, very unfortunate. You want to say anything to me? No. You want to...
Daniel Hanoyan says former friend Kaylin Cole owes for a loan to get her car out of impound.
Who is this?
This is my mother, Your Honor.
How old are you?
22.
And you, sir?
35.
You work in the same place of business?
At one time we did, yeah.
And I gather from reading your complaint, sir, that despite the fact that this young lady is much too young for you, you had a little crush on her.
A little bit, yeah. At one time, and then I found out her age.
And you needed some money because your car was in impound. How come you asked the plaintiff for a loan?
Well, I was at work one night, and I was frustrated because my car was impounded, and he had asked me what was wrong. And I told him...
What was your car doing impounded?
I'm not sure. I think I was, it was a charge. I was arrested, and my car was impounded.
What do you mean you're not sure? You think my car was arrested. I was arrested. My car was impounded. What kind of ridiculousness is that? I asked you a question. What was your car doing in impound?
I had been arrested.
There you go. For what?
They thought that my car was stolen, but it wasn't, in fact, and they impounded my car.
Who were you driving with?
A friend.
Male or female?
Male.
Was he arrested too?
No.
Just you?
Yes.
Who was driving?
I was.
How old is your friend?
I think he is 22.
So they found out that your car wasn't stolen?
Yes.
How long was the car in impound?
14 days.
You mean it took the police department 14 days to figure out that it wasn't stolen?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you speeding?
No. A cop had just saw me down the road and pulled me over.
How many children do you have? You have to think about that?
Two by birth, 3. I have a stepson also. She's my oldest.
Is the younger one smarter?
Yes.
All right, so Mr. Hanoyan gave you money to get your car out of impound, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, Mr. Hanoyan, now that I've sort of kneaded this case a little bit, I don't like slippery. You agreed to loan her the money.
Yes, I did.
And in exchange, she would allow you to have possession of the car. You didn't have the car at the time for 2 months, and within that 2-month period of time, she would return to you the $535, and you would give her back her car. That was your agreement.
That was the original
Is that
agreement.
right?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you give her the money?
On May 27th.
And when did she let you take the car?
On the same day, well, she drove it at first, but she eventually gave me the car.
And how long did you keep the car?
About 2.5 weeks.
What happened?
Well, one night she asked to borrow it.
What did she say?
She said, I need to go with my friends. She was always with this one crony girlfriend that she'd go and they'd go do an errand. She didn't say where or whatever, but then she came back. She was way late, and I was worried about she was going to take the car. I was trusting her the whole time. I was trusting her. She did bring back the original time. The second time she borrowed the car, she said she was going to pick up her mom from the Greyhound bus depot. Never saw her again after that. Never called, never called. I tried to reach her, and she just denied my calls and cussed me out and stuff like that.
Now, Miss Cole, you say you took the car back because?
I took the car back because Mr. Hanoyan had come over. He would come over like once or twice a week to show me the car, and he, in fact, in the contract said that he would fix the car, any damages, or keep up the oil, keep gas in it, tune up.
Which I did.
All kinds.
Shh.
And every time he would come over, there, in fact, he hadn't gotten an oil change. I told him 3 times to get an oil change. Every time he came over.
You only had the car for a week?
No, he had the car for about a month.
No, that's a lie.
I took the car back about 2 weeks before the end of the contract.
How much money had you paid him?
I paid him about, I'd given him like $20 here, $40 there every time he would come over.
Miss
Probably
Cole,
about half.
Miss Cole, listen to me.
Yes.
You paid him nothing.
That's right.
Because if you had paid him something, you would have said so in your answer. So you paid him nothing.
No, I paid him like $20 here, $40 there every time he came over.
That's what you just said to me. I just told you you were a liar. Because in your answer, big long story, nowhere did it say you gave him any money. You get it?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, if you didn't like the way he was taking care of your car, you had every right to take it back. You still owe him the $535.
He did, in fact, breach his contract. He had told me that he had a driver's license. I actually have a copy.
What does that have to do? Listen to me. Listen to me. You did say, listen to me, madam, mother, the younger one is smarter, right?
Yes.
If you choose to take the car back because he did not have a driver's license, he wasn't taking good care of it, that's fine. You still owe him the money.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand?
Oh, I understand completely.
Did you try to explain it to her?
Yeah, I tried to explain it to her, but I was never clear on the entire situation. And
now you're clear.
Well, Dan was calling me.
He had the car. Yeah. The car was a mere perk for him. He was to keep the car, but she was to pay him. Keep the car for that 2 months. I was a thank you.
But he was calling me for the money way from the very beginning.
Well, because, listen to me, he shouldn't have called you.
No.
Shouldn't have called you, shouldn't have bothered you. But I want you to understand the agreement that your daughter had, because she's got this vacant look between her ears that frightens me. The car loan was a perk. Allowing him to use the car merely said, thank you for loaning me this money. I will pay you back. The fact that you took the car back because you didn't like the way he was taking care of them, that you don't have to pay him. Oh, I have to go now. Listen to me. If you hang around with babies, that's what's going to happen.
You're right.
She's a baby, not a very smart one. I don't know about you. Doesn't sound like you're very clever either. You get involved with somebody who's 22 years old. Yeah. 22 years old at work doesn't sound too smart.
I made a mistake, that's for sure.
Well, it was a big mistake. Meanwhile, you're entitled to your $535 judgment for the plaintiff.
Thank you, Judy.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Laura Schmidt says Cody and Brandy Mather owe for breach of contract regarding the sale of a weekend cabin.
Well, folks, I must tell you that I have been involved in the sale of property over the course of my lifetime, and this is one of the dumbest contracts that I have ever seen. And why 3 seemingly intelligent people would enter into such a ridiculous agreement is beyond me, and why the attorneys who represented you in the sale of this cabin would allow you to enter into this agreement. Maybe it's because you're young, but you're not that young. So this is what it's about, Bert. Listen, careful attention.
Got it.
Miss Schmitz had a cabin that she was very fond of. It was a vacation cabin. However, as fond as she was of the cabin, she decided to sell it. And she sold it to Mr. and Mrs. Mather, a lovely young couple who wanted a vacation place. Where is this cabin located?
Sashing Lake, Washington.
Beautiful, on a lake. However, Miss Schmitz wasn't prepared to totally let go of this cabin, so she maintained, through a letter of intent with the Mathers, an agreement that twice a year she was going to be able to use the cabin for a week each. Once Memorial Day, where she had a big party every year, and once during the summer. These folks agreed to that condition. Now, the first week she used the cabin, according to her, everything was okay.
Yes.
But when she was planning the second weekend, Mr. and Mrs. Mather were having second thoughts already about this agreement. So they sort of, according to her, made it unpleasant. They didn't give her the key to the cabin. They said, we're not giving you a key. We'll unlock it, and when you leave, you lock it, which sort of, to her, made her a prisoner in the cabin because she couldn't leave for the whole week. She was afraid the cabin would be unlocked and unattended to. And then she found her stuff piled up because she sold the cabin furnished. Anyway, because of what she considered a breach of their contract, she hired an attorney to sort of get involved. So she is suing them now because she wants the attorney's fees that she expended to sort of make sure this weekend took place. And then when she went there, you flew there, is that right?
Yes, it's over 300 miles from where I live.
So did you fly, is my question?
Yes.
To make a long story short, she didn't stay. So she wants them to pay for her airfare and for some stuff of hers that she says was missing from the cabin. I don't know what could be missing since she sold it. I don't understand that. Mr. and Mrs. Mather say, well, they really weren't thrilled with her coming for the second weekend because they had heard via neighbors about the previous weekend, but they never told her that she couldn't come, and that when she was there previously, she broke some things, she took some things, and also for lawyers' fees because they had to get their lawyer involved to talk to her lawyer about this alleged breach of contract for the second week vacation. Did I sort of outline it pretty well?
Pretty good.
Yes.
You
The idea was this sail with tentacles.
Laura.
Your Honor, it was my idea because I was giving up thousands of dollars in a prepayment penalty so that they could get their own financing.
You bought the cabin when?
In '94.
And you bought
a
it?
20-year contract.
Which said?
$1,000 for every year and partial year that you end the contract, and it was an assumable contract.
Just a second. You're talking about a mortgage?
Correct, a contract.
Oh, just a second. It's not a contract. You're talking about you had a mortgage. That was an assumable mortgage.
With a prepayment penalty.
Oh, now I understand. We're talking apples
glad
and
you
oranges.
understand.
All right. She had an assumable mortgage, but if they wanted to pay off the mortgage, if she wanted to pay off the mortgage early, there was a penalty. If she got somebody to assume her mortgage on the cabin, then there wasn't a penalty. And you did or did not assume the mortgage?
We didn't assume the mortgage.
You didn't assume the mortgage so that it cost you $10,000 extra in your way of thinking to sell it to these people.
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, let me tell you this, Ms. Schmitz, that's a skewed way of thinking because all you have to do is find another prospective buyer who'd pay you an additional $10,000. But what you don't do is say, well, I'm going to sell it to you, but I want to be able to use it twice a year for free, forever, because that's dumb.
Thank you.
Right?
It's very.
It's not the last cabin in the world.
No.
So, how long have you been married?
8 years?
8 years, yeah.
How difficult is marriage?
It's hard.
What?
It's a lot of work.
And you love him.
Yes.
Right? You don't love her.
No.
You just signed on to be married to her
I know.
forever.
That's right.
And our family
Yeah.
warned us
Just
and warned us. I know.
Family.
My mom. I know. She knew.
You don't love her. She's a stranger. You don't know if she's a nut. You don't know what her friends are like. You don't know if she's a slob. You don't know, whatever. And you have married her for as long as you have that cabin. And I don't even know if this provision of 2 weeks goes with the sale of the cabin, does it?
No, it was a side.
doesn't.
So now I'm really going to try to help you. What's it going to take, Miss Schmitz, to let them out of this stupid deal?
Well, she told me on this.
What is it going to take, Miss Schmitz, to let them out of this stupid deal?
I would like to be paid for the money that I lost.
$4,000.
No, a lot more than $4,000. And today is not about the prepayment penalty.
Just a second. Who do you live with?
Myself.
You have to find something else to do with the next 5 years of your life other than sue these people. Because the contract that you entered into was dumb. The prepayment penalty for your mortgage had absolutely nothing to do with selling them this property with this 2-week provision. It's dumb, and you should finish it today. And you should allow me to help you. I'm prepared to help you. If you don't want me to help you, I don't think you're going to like the judgment today. Do we understand each other? You have to find another purpose for living other than this cabin. You have to let it go. Now, if it's going to cost $4,000 to let them out of this ridiculousness. It will give you the opportunity to spend the next 4 years someplace else, $1,000 a week, celebrating your birthday, Memorial Day, or whatever else you want to celebrate. But you have to let them out of this ridiculous bargain, because otherwise what they're going to do is, as much as they love the cabin, they're going to sell it to somebody, maybe even a relative, to get out from under this ridiculous commitment that they made. So it's my job to try to reduce the amount of litigious behavior we have in this country, not expand it. So I am prepared to help you, Ms. Schmitz. Do you want me to help you?
Yes.
Now I'm going to ask you again. How much is it going to cost to let them out of this ridiculous contract?
Your Honor, I'm out $4,000 in addition to the thousands I paid in the prepayment penalty.
They're not responsible for your prepayment penalty. That's your bag. You could have said to the realtor, one of the conditions of a purchaser is someone who is going to assume my mortgage so it won't cost me an additional $10,000. How much did you pay for the property, Ms. Schmitz?
$62,094.
How much did you sell it for?
$131.
So that's not bad, and you had the use and enjoyment of it, and you doubled your money. And even if you say, well, you had a prepayment penalty on your mortgage, take off $10,000, $121. So you doubled your money in 10 years. That's pretty good, right? So I'm going to ask you again, what is it going to cost to let these people out of this ridiculous contract that you both entered into?
Your Honor, I wasn't prepared to talk about the prepayment penalty.
I just talked about the prepayment penalty. Did I make sense to you?
Yes.
You think it's going to make more sense to retain a lawyer, sue them, continue to sue them, because the lawyer's going to charge you money. I would charge you money at the rate of $500 an hour. So, and a lot more aggravation. So all I'm telling you is you have to find a life other than suing these people. It's over. And I am prepared to help you. I would take me up on my offer.
I will.
Good. So let's go again. How much is it going to cost to let them out of this ridiculous contract? Then I'm going to ask them if they're prepared for it.
Since the maximum I'm allowed to ask for of the $15,000 is $4,000, I guess that's the maximum I can receive.
Well, I'm going to let you amend your complaint to ask for $5 because that's the jurisdictional limit of this court.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to come to you. Ms. Schmitz is prepared to have me enter an order that says, upon the payment of $5,000, that she will declare null and void the requirement that she use the house for 2 weeks a year, and then you will both withdraw these claims. What do you think?
I agree.
That sounds good.
Sounds great.
Very smart.
Now we are.
Okay. You have a copy of the letter of intent. You prepared to withdraw at this point your counterclaim?
We do.
It's going to be a very simple order that I will sign, you will sign. So I'm going to ask you to wait outside. Bird will call you. Yes.
Your Honor, in good faith, I offered them the use to negate that offer.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We don't want to use her home.
Absolutely. You don't want to use your home. You don't use their home. Go. Goodbye. Have a happy life. Good luck.
Thank you.